We are back. I'm back and I am super stoked to be back with you guys. Over the last month, I have taken a digital hiatus where I have been living what I have termed chronically offline. And when I say chronically, really I just mean very intentionally offline. When I decided to stop allowing my phone to dictate my attention, something really powerful happened, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. In the weeks leading up to this digital hiatus that I took, there were things that I noticed happening that the more they happened, the more I just couldn't ignore them as much as I tried to. I think the biggest thing that I noticed is that I was very rarely in the present moment, regardless of what I was doing. It was always one hand on my phone and then one hand doing whatever it was that I was doing. And then I started to notice that the simple pleasures in life that I cherished so much, really small things like enjoying the weather on a nice day or making a cup of coffee. I've talked about that before, how I really enjoy the process of pour over coffee. Really small, simple pleasures like that, I noticed that they just didn't resonate as deeply or at all, and that I was really just hurrying through these things that beforehand I would have really taken my time and enjoyed them. And I wasn't doing that anymore. The constant stimulation that I was exposing myself to literally from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed had just really broken my capacity for savoring and living in the real world. And I also felt like I didn't have any downtime, which is ridiculous. Clearly I did have downtime. I was just using it to scroll on my phone. Instead of getting things done, I was scrolling. Instead of enjoying my hobbies, I was scrolling. Instead of spending time with my kids, I was scrolling. And I'm not even on social media, guys. That's really scary. Pinterest and YouTube really proved to be my personal kryptonites, and I will talk about that in a little while. But I had become so accustomed, and I think this is true for a lot of us, of the noise of my phone, of the notifications and the dings and the constant never-ending feeds, that when I tried to choose silence, the silence was really, really deafening, which I understand is an oxymoron, but it was. It was really uncomfortable. It was really, really hard. When we are constantly just entertained by the endless streams of notifications and feeds and alerts from our phones, we're really just training our brains to crave this external stimulation all the time and this instant gratification all the time. And the digital noise just becomes kind of our default state. It's this comforting but very distracting low-key hum that's just kind of always there. And it's really hard to just quit, because the moment that we put our phones down and we try to embrace that silence, that part of our brain that we have trained panics, or at least mine did. And that absence of the external input just kind of feels like a vacuum. And it's just really, really hard. And I will be the first person to admit it. But what I have also learned is that the things in life that are hard to deal with are also, if we deal with them correctly, which I will also go over in just a minute, it can be the best thing for us. What I found is that it creates this space where we can really pursue what actually matters to us and what we actually value. I want to give you guys a couple of examples of things in life that are hard but are best for us, just so you can kind of visualize what this looks like. So things like saying no to social media really means that we are saying yes to more peace and less comparison. But that's hard because we like to stay connected with other people, and social media just makes that so easy to do. But I also feel like things come around on social media that everybody knows about, and then they go to talk to you about it, and you're like, what? And they're like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, I'm not on social media, so I haven't seen it. And they kind of give you that look like, you're what? How? Why? And then you sort of feel like low-key socially ostracized because you're not on social media, and therefore you just don't keep up with what is going on and all the stuff that social media brings us. And that's hard. This next one is a little bit more personal to me and my situation, but saying no to working full-time means saying yes to living on one income. And that's hard. I do not have to explain why. But when you're on one income, you unfortunately have to say no to certain things and events that you would actually really like to do. And they might be great, wholesome, wonderful things, but you just don't have the ability to do it. You can't swing it on one income. For example, one of my girlfriends a couple of weeks ago asked me to go to Florida with her. She said, it's just gonna be a girls trip. We're gonna get away for a weekend, enjoy the beach. It's gonna be great. Listen, your girl is all about the beach. I love to be at the beach. I love to be in the water, surfing, the whole thing. I'm here for it. I would have loved to go on that trip, but I had to say no because I chose or am actively choosing to live on one income. Another really big one is saying no to trends. When we say no to what's trendy, we are saying yes to being true and authentic to ourselves. But that's hard because it means that we may not fit in with everybody. It means that we may not live up to the expectations of society, or at the very least, the people within our social circles. And that's hard. We want to fit in. The things that are, if we're honest, best for us are almost always way more difficult to do. Everybody does the easy stuff. Very few people do the hard stuff. And making the choice to live chronically offline for the past month, even though I knew I needed it, that was hard, especially having to explain to people who would try to get a hold of me or call me, and I wouldn't be near my phone, or I wouldn't text them back for, several hours or whatever it was. Having to explain that, sorry, I didn't have my phone on me. I think there's just like this expectation now that we should have our phones on us all the time, and that if you don't text somebody back or call somebody back right away, that there's something wrong. Somebody's upset with somebody, or there's some drama or something like that. So having to explain so many times that everything is fine, I'm just choosing to not be on my phone, was hard because people judged me for it. People judged. And that's fine. Let them judge. It wasn't only hard, but it was also like wildly uncomfortable. But when the discomfort faded, which it did, it took time, but it did fade. Once it faded, I realized how much time and mental energy, especially, I had for all of these things that I both needed to get done, but also things that I wanted to get done that before I just felt like I didn't have time for. And this affected everything from my to-do list at home, the laundry and all of that I now keep up on just fine, all the way over to the connections and the relationships that I have with my friends and family in my life. And I think my kids probably noticed this the most when they talk to me or I talk to them and they're not talking at me while I'm busy scrolling on my phone, but I'm giving them my undivided attention. That matters. There is such a difference when you talk to your kids, or anybody else for that matter, when you're having a conversation and it looks like this. Oh yeah? That's cool. I know. Yeah, just 1 second. And this. Yeah? And then you guys went outside? Oh man, was it raining? Oh no! I bet. There is such a difference in those two interactions. And it is just tragic how many times this is the interaction that we are giving our kids and anybody else that we talk to now. It is genuinely a tragedy. I think that's something that honestly doesn't get talked about, and it isn't given the attention that it so desperately deserves, because people remember that. Our children are going to remember that. And it's important that we make them and other people feel heard and feel valued. And when we're interacting with other people, making that other person know and feel like this interaction actually matters because they're giving me their undivided attention. I don't think that we have the capacity anymore to do that, and it's because of our phones. So the silence is really, really difficult. And I want to address and acknowledge how difficult that is. And I think this is where so many of us don't put in the actual work that it takes to stay off the loop of on your phone, off your phone, right? Chronically online, chronically offline. Finding the balance requires us to do something that I have yet to hear talked about. And I think it is literally the crux of making living offline successful in the long term. Before you even put your phone away, before you even make the decision to put it in a drawer or to do any of the things to get off of your phone, the most important thing that we need to do, and this is what I had to do, is we have to sort of have a mental conversation with ourselves and just acknowledge that we are used to being entertained. We are used to having that constant hum and buzz, like I was saying earlier, in the background all the time. And when we put our phone away, and when that entertainment and that buzz go away, and there's just silence, it is going to be difficult because your brain is going to go into panic mode because it's not used to not having something, sort of like an addict, not used to being sober, if you will. It's going to be hard. And if we don't have this acknowledgement and this sort of preface with ourselves before we put our phone away, you've already lost the battle long term. Because when you sit down and you put your phone away, if you have that conversation with yourself beforehand, you acknowledge it, you know what's coming, you can handle it a lot better. How often do we handle things better when we know they're coming? When we can plan for them, rather than things just happening out of the blue. We had no idea it was coming, and then we go into a frenzy and we panic and we default to all of our old habits, right? So it's so crucial before you decide to take a digital hiatus or just start using your phone less, that you sit down and you say, this is gonna be hard, it's gonna be really uncomfortable, but when I get to the other side of it, there is so much peace and life waiting for me that I am missing out on right now. And when you sit down, when I was thinking about this, it just makes me laugh. When you sit down, when you put your phone away and you sit down, you don't sit there and put your phone away and then just, like white knuckle your way through it. You know what I mean? Like I can just see somebody putting their phone in the drawer and then they're like, okay, we're gonna embrace the silence. And then they sit down and they're like, sorry. I envisioned it. It was funny. I hope you laughed. That is a surefire way to fail. Don't do that. When you put your phone away and you sit down or you go to do something that doesn't have that hum in the background, have a conversation with yourself through it. Acknowledge what you're feeling, acknowledge that it's difficult, because difficult things are okay. And the difficult things are usually the things that help us to grow and become better. So we need to acknowledge that, because when we do, it makes it easier knowing that there are good things waiting on the other side, and it can help us to get through those periods of discomfort a lot easier. So really just sit with it. And I think that this goes for so many things. When we just grind through the hard stuff, like white knuckle it through the hard stuff, we miss out on the opportunity that period of life has for us to grow. I know that for me, being bored was the biggest struggle, and it's so important that when we put our phone away, that we are actively replacing it with other things that we enjoy doing that are more fulfilling. I know for me that the quiet was probably the most difficult, but again, this is something that I really forced myself, and not like white knuckling, but just talking my way all the way through it as much as I needed to, that I forced myself to experience, because I knew that I would come to enjoy it far more than that constant buzz that I had grown accustomed to. I felt like my central nervous system that had just become accustomed to like this constant, like, you know what I mean? Like just constant, I felt like it could finally just relax. And sure enough, after a week or two, which I think this is also really important at the step before you even put your phone away, that you acknowledge where it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be difficult, all of that. It's also really important to remember that it's not going to be one session of putting your phone away and then like, and then everything's fine. Like, that is not how it's gonna go. At least for me, it took like a solid week and a half, 2 weeks of me to get accustomed to that lack of noise. But when I came through that on the other end, being bored stopped being something that I like actively avoided, like this void that needed to be filled. And it instead became sort of this like fertile place that I could cultivate all the good and meaningful parts of life. I really noticed that I was able to regain control of my attention instead of my phone dictating where my attention went. Now, I got off social media way before like Instagram did their reels, so it's been a hot minute. But I have seen like TikToks, like when other people watch TikToks and I just happen to be around, these 30-second or 45-second clips or whatever it is that we can't even get through because our attention span is so short. Watching people watch these like makes my brain shake. Like it's way too much for me to process. And it's no wonder that our attention spans are literally as of 2023, 47 seconds long. I don't know what a goldfish's attention span is, but I think they're giving us a run for our money, which is so pathetic. 47 seconds. 47 seconds. But I noticed that after this, I was able to give my attention to whatever I was doing wholeheartedly, be it a task I was doing, a conversation that I was having. I could be there 100% in the moment without any kind of distraction. And it was just such an amazing shift to watch take place, because it just makes life become so much more vivid when the quiet moments that I have, which when I say quiet moments, I'm not talking about like sitting in this chair staring out the window, although that does sound nice. But any of these quiet moments that I had where I was doing something without my brain being entertained gave me this sort of like non-urgent sense of well-being. Like if you were to sit down in your living room, or if I were to sit here in the chair, when was the last time that you just sat down or went outside and just stood there and didn't really do anything, but you looked around and you thought, life is pretty good? When was the last time that any of us did that? That is a perfect example of what I mean when I say this non-urgent sense of well-being. This is exactly what I mean. And I think in this very moment, this is where genuine contentment really comes from. In those moments, when we look around and we think, life is pretty good. When we stop chasing the dopamine fixes that we are craving all the time, we just start to become more content naturally. I wasn't spending time figuring out how to keep up with everybody around me. I found peace in my life where my life is right now. I wasn't rushing to get to whatever end goal I have in mind. Even right now, in this season of life that is really pretty busy for us, I'm back at work nearly full-time, 32 to 35 hours a week. My husband works full-time. Both my kids are in basketball. My oldest has Lego League. We're in a pretty busy season of life right now. But even though I'm not in this mad dash all the time, and it's because I have given my brain and my mind and just my general central nervous system this ability to just relax and have time and space to breathe. And I'm able to process things that are happening in my life and deal with them or plan for them accordingly because I have that mental space. Do not underestimate the power that this can have, that a digital hiatus, that living chronically offline can have. Because in this world that we live in, where we're constantly chasing novelty, living offline really allows us to trade that novelty for depth, because we have time to do the work of cultivation in our lives. When we cultivate attention instead of cultivating distraction, we start to live our lives in a way that reflects our values and doesn't just reflect our habits. And this is where a meaningful life begins. Living offline for me has looked like re-engaging in so many of my passions, like running, like reading, like creating YouTube content again. I have missed creating things. And again, even with going back to work nearly full time, again, to help us get our debt paid off, I've done videos on that before. I still feel like I have time to get everything else done. And it's just because I took that small step to recognize that I needed to get off my phone. I did the work of having that internal kind of monologue with myself about what I was going to expect, what I knew was coming when I took that step, how difficult it was going to be. I put in that really hard work of getting over that bridge where we just can't sit in silence, and then coming out on the other side of it. Instead of like scrolling on your phone and looking at, beautiful sunsets in places that you may not ever visit, go outside and look at the sunset at your house. Instead of sending a text message, make a phone call where you can hear the inflection and the tone in the other person's voice. It's just infinitely more meaningful. This is the richness and the depth that I'm talking about that is being stolen from us when we actively choose to continue to live in front of a screen. Ultimately, living chronically offline just means that we are choosing to be present in our own lives, to enjoy what's actually in front of us and not enjoy something on a screen. Life just becomes so much more vibrant, so much fuller. I think vibrant is a really great way to describe what happens when you stop looking at sunsets on your phone and you start looking at the sunset out your window, or even better on your back porch, or even better from your lawn. Because you're creating memories, you're not just like collecting data and overflowing your already fragmented mind with just endless amounts of shallow information. And when you realize that that is what your phone is doing, that your phone is supplying you with endless amounts of shallow information, it becomes so much easier to step away from it, to opt out. I think if we were to like explain this to somebody else, they would be like, yeah, I'm good, like hard pass. Why would I want to spend my time having shallow, meaningless information thrown at me? Like when you think about it from that perspective, like, do you just do this? You're like hard pass. That's a hard pass. The lack of nourishment is just so so obvious and so deeply unsatisfying. It's just like, yeah, hard pass on that. Hard pass. And when you step into that place where your mind is like intentionally empty, it has the ability and the space to create new thoughts and new ideas. And it is just so infinitely more fulfilling. So practically, here are the steps that I took when I decided to do a digital hiatus. Like I mentioned earlier, before you even put your phone in the drawer, it is so important that you sit down and you have a conversation and you think through the difficulty that is headed your way. Because when you put your phone away and you don't have that constant hum and buzz, it will be wildly uncomfortable and very, very difficult. So you need to know that's coming. You need to acknowledge that that is coming. And you need to be able to just talk yourself through it, talk to yourself about what the benefits are going to be on the other side of getting over that uncomfort, that discomfort. Once you have done that and you feel really good and ready, you're like, I know it's coming and I can handle it. When you can say that with confidence, then after you've had that conversation, the next thing to do is to take any distracting apps off your phone. Okay? Just because they're off your phone doesn't mean that your account's deleted and it's gone forever. It just means that it is that much more difficult to access those platforms. We want to introduce friction in between having the urge to scroll and actually scrolling. The two things that proved to be my absolute kryptonite were Pinterest and YouTube. And I didn't even have the YouTube app on my phone. I knew months ago, I knew that that was going to be a problem if I had the app on my phone, but I got literally just as good at opening my web browser, typing in YO, my phone would pull up YouTube, and off I would go. So I had to actually go into my settings, enable screen time, and then list YouTube as one of the websites that I was not allowed to access. Because every time that I would go to pull YouTube up after that, it would say, this is restricted. You cannot access it. And then I would have to take all the steps to go into my settings, take it off the list, refresh it. And by the time I would get done with that, it was like, I don't even really want to do this. So setting that limitation for me was really, really helpful, and it can be really, really helpful for you too. The next thing that I did is I really wanted to create limits, especially around bedtime and the time I woke up, with my phone use. I'm sure you guys are aware, looking at your phone the last couple of hours, or at least the last hour before you go to bed, can make it infinitely more difficult to fall asleep and have a deep, restful night's sleep. So I enabled a setting called downtime. You can go in, it's in your screen time settings, but it's basically where you won't be able to access anything on your phone except for the things that you allow for certain time periods. So for me, I didn't allow myself to access anything on my phone that could be distracting. Things that I would use, like the weather or my Bible app, were the only two, or the phone, were the only three apps that I allow myself to use from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. I'm usually in bed between 8 and 8:30, so having that screen time setting enabled an hour beforehand I found to be really helpful for sleep. But I also didn't want to start my day with my phone. I always get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30 if I'm going to do an ice bath, but always 5 o'clock, and so my screen time doesn't turn off until 6 a.m. This really allows me to have the last hour and the first hour of my day be very intentionally quiet parts of my day. I like to go to bed way low key, and I like to wake up way low key. And not being on my phone during that time, it has proven to be super, super helpful in that endeavor. The last thing that I did, and I would also encourage you to do this, is that when you're at home, put your phone in a drawer. I found that if my phone is out on the counter, I just automatically pick it up. It's like an automatic response at this point. But if it's in a drawer where I can't see it, I really don't even think about it. I may go by every, hour or two, whatever, and check it, but there is a significant difference in having it on the counter and how often I check it when it's on the counter versus having it in my drawer where it's sort of like out of sight, out of mind. This can also be really helpful because if you're anything like me, you were sitting in the living room and you'd have your phone right next to you on the couch, and then you would get up to go to the bathroom to pee, and your phone just had to come with you. Like, can we talk about how absolutely pathetic that is for like a second? That we can't go do the smallest thing without our phone. It's wildly pathetic. So, having it in the drawer will also prevent you from doing that. It'll be so nice. You can go room to room and not have to carry your phone with you. And you will be surprised how much faster and more efficiently you get things done. It's wild, guys. It's wild. All right. Last thing that I would recommend, which is sort of the same thing, but this is for when you leave the house. Men, maybe use your center console in your vehicle. Women, I always put my phone in my purse. I think so many of us just have our phone in our laps when we drive, and it's just, you just pick it up and check it while you're driving. And don't lie, we all do it. You're at the stoplight checking your phone too. I know, because I look over and see you doing it. We're like, we shouldn't be doing this, but here we are. Anyway, put your phone in your purse and put your purse somewhere that you can't reach it while you drive, because it really, really helps keep you off the phone when you're in your car and when you're out and about. I promise you guys, nothing on your phone is worth missing out on the life that is right in front of you. Nothing. So today, I really want to encourage you guys to start collecting memories and not data. So take back your time. Reclaim your attention and start to find the genuine, deep contentment that was always just waiting for you off screen. Listen, guys, if I can do it, then you can do it. I promise you can do it, and your life will get infinitely better for it. As always, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Thank you for continuing to support my work here on YouTube. It feels so good to be back. I should be back on a regular posting schedule of once a week, so I hope that you guys are excited for that. Thank you guys, as always, for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.